Okay, I should be live now. Yeah, it says alright, time to tweet it out. Post to the Discords. Post to the Discords. It says I don't have any viewers. I'm gonna refresh. See if that does anything. 0 watching now. Post to the Discords. It says I don't have any viewers. That just doesn't seem right. I'm gonna refresh. Come on, guys, it's New Year's Eve. Where are you guys at? See if that does anything. 0 watching now. Post to the Discords. It said I had 4 people watching earlier. It says I don't. Let me know if you're here. Type in the chat. Okay, it says 1 watching now, but that's probably just me. Okay. I think YouTube was just having a bit of a poo. Let me make this a little bigger. Yeah, it says I'm skipping frames. But the audio seems fine. Okay. I think YouTube was just having a bit of a poo. Let me make this a little bigger. Yeah, it says I'm skipping frames. But the audio seems fine. I like just can't get this to a good size. I should have checked the size of it before I put it in OBS. Just a little bigger. Curse you, MS Paint! Anyway, since there's some people watching now, welcome to my annual year-in review stream. I do this every year. At least I have since 2017. I don't know if I did one in 2016. Because I'm pretty sure I didn't even know how to stream at that point. Because this YouTube channel started like November of 2016, so I doubt I would have done any streams by the end of that year. But that would make this my 3rd year in review stream, and 2016 was the year the year of the red pill. It was the year that we kind of all got sick and tired of the progressive wank fest and mainstream media BS and all that stuff. 2017 was certainly the year that the nostalgia bubble burst. Nostalgia had been like kind of the product of the time up until that point, and a lot of people were starting to really see the cracks in trying to market things towards nostalgia. We had, Last Jedi, Alien Covenant, Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, Blade Runner 2049. What else came out in 2017? 2017 was also the year Thor Ragnarok came out. I'm pretty sure Spider-Man Homecoming came out that year as well. And so even the good movies were like, oh my goodness, enough with the nostalgia shit. Um, we want new stuff, not the same old repackaged cheese. 2018, I don't think I had a catchy name for 2018 when I did my stream last year. Uh, God, 2018 is such a blur because that was such a terrible year for me, and I just, like, repressed a lot of my memories from that year, I guess. Uh, but 2019 has kind of a kitschy name, too. And it's in the description. It's the year that suspicions were confirmed. And this goes top to bottom throughout all aspects of what I'll be talking about in this stream. Just to give, a rundown of some of that stuff. We suspected that the Mueller report was bogus, and that Mueller's investigation was a complete and utter waste of time. Turns out 3 years later and millions of taxpayer dollars later, 3 years, millions of taxpayer dollars, and not a single scrap of evidence that Trump committed a crime. We suspected that the Democrats didn't care about the evidence and that they just wanted the brownie points of having something to impeach. And lo and behold, they ended up impeaching Trump without charging him with a crime or citing any specific evidence of said crimes. Going down the thing, we suspected that Endgame was going to be good because Kevin Feige knows what he's doing, and so did the Russo brothers, but it wasn't going to be as good as Infinity War because how on earth could you follow that up? Lo and behold, Endgame, pretty good movie, buckled under its own weight a lot. We suspected that Star Wars was gonna go downhill, and we'll get to that. We'll talk a lot about Star Wars this year because this was a very big year for Star Wars and not a particularly good one. No, we suspected that they didn't have a plan. That much is obvious. We suspected that they screwed George Lucas over, and I think it was Bob Iger just recently had his book where that's exactly what happened. We suspected, going to video games, we suspected that Kojima was an absolute hack, and Death Stranding happened. We suspected that Respawn was actually a really solid developer, and Jedi Fallen Order happened. We suspected that the indie market was just gonna continuously collapse, and so far it has. We suspected that the mainstream music, as it's been for decades, was losing momentum, and here we have Lil Nas X as the song of the year with Old Town Road, just completely sticking a middle finger to the entire system as we knew it. We suspected that we suspected that Netflix and streaming services were gonna take over and basically replace cable and Hollywood, and that's happened. Netflix has made a lot of movies in the past, these past couple years, but this was the first year where they had genuine critical successes that could very well win Oscars. With The Irishman and Klaus. I suspect Klaus will, at the very least, be nominated for Best Animated Film, if not outright win. But not only with just Netflix, but a lot of new streaming services came out this year, like Disney Plus with The Mandalorian, the most talked about show of the fall. You suspect The Mandalorian would actually be pretty solid and safe because a lot was riding on it. We suspect it, and the those familiar with my channel are undoubtedly familiar with Ruby. We suspected that Rooster Teeth was floundering and falling apart and being oppressed by, you know, parent company over parent company, and oh my god, this was such a bad year for Rooster Teeth. Holy shit. Oh, layoffs, producers leaving, more layoffs, the Vic Mignogna situation, Genlock flopping, layoff after layoff, comic books flopping, both DC and Viz just butchering their flagship franchise. Red versus Blue continuously declining. Like, we thought they hit rock bottom in season 16, and this just keeps getting worse. It's just like not even like the stuff that's always been good, like Achievement Hunter has been able to kind of make up for just the amount of losses that we've had with Genlock and all these layoffs and stuff. Yeah, I'm usually the last person to speak doom and gloom about a multi-million-dollar company. Crazier stuff has happened. Capcom is still around. Capcom actually had a really big year this year with Resident Evil 2 Remake and DMC 5. Just a couple years ago, it was looking like they were gonna, flop, and like they had a lot of success writing on, I think it was actually the Mega Man game that came out a few years ago. They had a lot kind of writing on that, and it ended up being a pretty big hit. It might have been, I can't remember what game it was. I think it was actually before Mega Man 11. But yeah, there's a game a couple of years ago where like Capcom was like, if this game flops, our company's done. And the game did well enough for them to keep going, and then they kind of reevaluated their company and restructured it, and really won a lot of people over this year. They really kind of went back to the Capcom of old that we all know and love. Who is adding me? I do not care. I don't even go to that server. But yes, it is New Year's Eve. I've been See, I feel like I've been busy last couple days, but at the same time I know I haven't, because I haven't done any work. I haven't had a video uploaded on my channel since, it's been a week now. Since I released the review for Volume 7, Episode 8. Coop says, boo, talk about Beastars. I would if I had seen it. Actually, I could mention Beastars because I did see, clips of it and saw stuff from the manga posted in the Discord, and I could probably comment on that a little bit. But I'll do that when I get to TV. Because I want to start with movies, and I didn't see a whole lot of movies this year. But another suspicion confirmed was that Disney did not care about all their old IPs. They were just pimping them out for cheap cash grabs. This is the year we got Dumbo and Aladdin. And Lion King, I think, was also this year. Yeah. Yeah, not a good year for Disney. Although it's a big year for Disney because we had Endgame, and Endgame was really good. But we also had Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel is probably one of the worst, movies in the MCU. Connor Hines, don't worry, I don't know enough about Beastars to spoil anything. Uh, I really don't. Um, and so then we got this Holly. 2018 was really the year of Me Too. And that it really bled over in 2019. When did Leaving Neverland come out? That was 2018, right? It's been over a year. So I mentioned this in my Decade in Review stream that no, Leaving Neverland was this year. It was very beginning of this year. It was January. So yeah, 2018 was the year of Me Too, and it really bled over into this year. With both Leaving Neverland and the Vic Mignogna situation, and more people getting Me Too'd. Um, and I said this in my Decade in Review stream that the entire Michael Jackson fiasco from 1993 to 2005 and even beyond that to this very day was really the test run for the Me Too movement and how diabolical it could actually be and how it could ruin people's lives absent any evidence, and how we should really be careful about what we accuse others of doing. Because again, compare the Michael Jackson case with the Harvey Weinstein case. Every time Harvey Weinstein's court case gets a little closer, another celebrity comes and starts throwing pot shots at Michael Jackson, who's been dead for over 10 years now, by the way. And then, suddenly Harvey Weinstein's court case gets delayed again. Like, the more we target these false accusations and chase these, false rumors and false pretenses and absent any evidence and, guilty until proven innocent, every time we do that, a real pedophile gets away. That's the dangerous thing. It delegitimizes the real victims. Like, I always get them mixed up. Is Corey Haim the one that's still alive? Is Corey Haim? Maybe it's Corey Feldman that's still alive. I'm gonna look that up now too. Corey Haim. Yeah, Corey Haim's the one that's still alive. Corey Haim was a victim. And he's defended Michael Jackson a lot the last couple of years. Like, he knew Michael Jackson. He knew all the people in the pedophile rings. And he knew Michael Jackson was not one of them. And he knows the people really responsible for all that stuff. And how they've used the Michael Jackson case as a distraction. And nobody listens to him because, only believe all victims unless those victims don't, fall in line with your narrative. So that was always messed up. That has not sat right with me all year. Michael Jackson did not deserve what happened to him. On a lighter note, I kind of already talked about music a lot in my Decade in Review stream, so I'm just gonna, brief reminder that Lil Nas X kind of came out of nowhere and completely changed the way that music is gonna be made for the next decade. He is this generation's Nirvana, and it's absurd that a 19-year-old shit poster had the record breaking #1 hit of all time. Something like 20 something weeks in the #1 spot, just cock blocking everyone, to the point where like Taylor Swift could barely keep a song in the top 10 this year. So yeah, Noah Wiley asked how bad is Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is a movie where the main quote unquote conflict is that Captain Marvel can't control her emotions, and the angrier she gets, the more powerful she gets, and yet she doesn't actually display any emotions throughout the entire movie. That's the level of retarded that movie works on. Uh, yeah, Coop's right. Nirvana is pretty musically lame. Like they're actually a very terrible band. Uh, they can't write songs. They're not good at instruments. Um, Kurt Cobain was not a good singer, but they kind of like lit the fuse on the alternative rock scene and kind of blasted away what had been the status quo since the late 60s. The late 60s kind of created the status quo with rock. And that status quo persisted throughout the 70s and 80s and even the first year or two of the 90s. And then Nirvana was like, yeah, we're kind of sick and tired of that. We're going to have like the more gritty alternative stuff. And then that's been the status quo since the early 90s, throughout the 90s, the entirety of the 2000s, and most of the 2010s up until this year. Now the status quo is... I honestly have no idea what the status quo is going to be from this point forward. Just so long as Maroon 5's career ends, I will be happy. Yeah, this was, what's the word? Now, moving on, continuing on through movies, Endgame was pretty good. I talked about that. Did I talk? Did I get a chance to talk about that in my Marvel stream? I know I did a stream where I like ranked all the Marvel movies, but I don't remember if I did that before or after I saw Endgame. Just in case, I think Endgame is the like fifth or sixth best Marvel movie. I would put Avengers, Infinity War, Civil War, Winter Soldier, and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 ahead of it. So two of the Avengers, the two Captain America sequels, and the Guardians of the Galaxy sequel would be above Endgame. Which means I put Endgame above, Spider-Man Homecoming, Doctor Strange, Incredible Hulk, all three Iron Man movies, all three Thor movies, the first Guardians of the Galaxy, and all the other not so both the Ant-Man movies. I know I'm missing some, but yeah, that's a whole nother deal. And that was so early on in this year. Which, by the way, I never saw Far From Home. I never saw Spider-Man Far From Home this year. I never got the chance to see it. And it's not on Disney Plus, as far as I know. So I'm going to have to, rent that from Redbox or something because Sony's being... That was another thing that happened this year. The whole Sony fiasco. The whole Sony and Disney cockfight. They had the biggest dick measuring contest I've ever seen two rival studios do over a single character. The result is that Spider-Man movies, the two Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, and also the older one, none of the Spider-Man movies are going to be on Disney Plus anytime soon. Yeah, they're not going to be on Disney Plus anytime soon, but Tom Holland is going to stay in the MCU where he belongs. Into the Spider-Verse was last year. I remember that being last year. I saw it in January. I saw it this year. Wasn't impressed. Nowhere near as impressed as everyone else seemed to be of it. I just don't like Miles Morales. I don't think he's a good character. Even in that, he's a lot better in the movie than he is in the comics, but even so, he's less than ideal for me. Oh, Wiley asked whose dick was longer. Apparently Disney, because they're the ones who got the better deal out of it. Tom Holland is still in the MCU. That's all that mattered to them. So what else happened in movies this year? Again, I didn't see a lot of movies. Nowhere near as many as I wish I had. Oh god. One movie I did see I didn't see it in theaters. I did not pay money to see this movie. X-Men Dark Phoenix. God. The X-Men movies. Oh, talk about going out like a fart in the wind. I think having seen Dark Phoenix is kind of why I was okay with Rise of Skywalker. Because, say what you want about Rise of Skywalker, it at least kind of cared. It at least tried a little bit. It tried to play things safe or whatever, but it could have been so much worse. Rise of Skywalker could have easily been Dark Phoenix, and it wasn't, and thank God for that. Dark Phoenix is the worst X-Men movie. Hands down. I thought X-Men Apocalypse was as low as it was ever going to get. But, oh my... Oh, God. Just right from the beginning to the end. Like, remember... Like, Jean Grey used the Phoenix Force against Apocalypse. How did they forget that? How did they let the same guy... It's the same writer as X-Men 3. It was supposed to be like, oh no, we're learning our lesson from X-Men 3, and they gave it to the same writer, and then had him direct. So they couldn't even get, like, Brett Ratner to direct. And I hate Brett Ratner, but X-Men 3 is the better movie, hands down. It's not even... I don't even think X-Men 3 is all that bad. I think it gets a bad rap because it's not anywhere near as good as the first two X-Men movies. But I also don't think the first two X-Men movies are as good as a lot of people say they are. I don't think they hold up very well. But Dark Phoenix might be the worst movie I've seen this decade. I said it. Dark Phoenix might be... Ooh, actually, I've seen some pretty terrible movies this decade. Avatar: Last Airbender technically came out this decade. Dark Phoenix is the worst superhero movie I've seen this decade. Worse than Batman v Superman. Worse than Green Lantern. Worse than Suicide Squad. I actually thought Man of Steel was pretty good, but so certainly worse than that. DC had a pretty decent year this year. I want to say the only movie that came out for them was Shazam. Aquaman came out last year, and I still haven't seen Aquaman, by the way, so I don't know if that's good. So, yeah, verdict is still out on Aquaman, whether I like it or not. Haven't seen it yet. But Shazam was really solid. I don't think it was a special, like, I didn't get wowed by it the way some people did, but safe by low expectations. There's kind of this theme with the quote-unquote good DC movies where, you know, Batman v Superman was so terrible that now we give awards just for, like, not shitting its pants. Like, Wonder Woman is not a good movie. Wonder Woman was not good. But it wasn't terrible. And it wasn't anywhere near as bad as Suicide Squad or Batman v Superman, so we all gave it a free pass and glowing reviews. And same thing kind of happened with Shazam, though Shazam is much, much better than Wonder Woman. It's an actually good movie. I'd probably put it on par with... I'd probably put it up there with, like, X-Men 2. Or the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. As far as, like, this is just really solid, fun, wholesome content. And special, too. Like, it did have a lot more heart than a lot of the recent superhero movies have had. Even more so than a lot of the Marvel movies, even ones I like. Like, I'd push Shazam far above, you know, any of the Thor movies. I'd certainly put it above Ant-Man and the Wasp, or even Spider-Man Homecoming. I'd put it above Spider-Man Homecoming. Because because it was a really good movie. Aeroblitz said Men in Black International was pretty bad as well. Didn't see Men in Black International. I never liked the Men in Black movies. I don't think any of them were good. I saw the first three. Wasn't a fan of any of them. They're kind of too... They're too dumb, but not creative enough for me. Sorry. I have kind of the sniffles because it's really cold down here. I think that basically sums up my thoughts for movies. I'll get to Rise of Skywalker later because I got spoilers to talk about on that. So I'm actually gonna save. I'm saving that Jedi Fallen Order and Mandalorian for like the second half of the stream because I think they kind of form this kind of cohesive whole of like what Star Wars has become. So TV shows. Meant to check this earlier. When did Daredevil season 3 come out? Okay, Daredevil season 3 was last year. I was making sure. I thought that. Toby Senpai Kawaii asked, "What did you think of Terminator Dark Fate?" I didn't watch it, but I think they should have stopped making Terminator movies after the second one. I think they've all just been various flavors of terrible after that. Like, the only one that was even tolerable was Terminator Salvation, and only because it, like, tried to just be a generic action movie. Terminator 3 was an outright abomination of everything that Terminator 2 stood for. Terminator Genisys was... I think that came out 2017? When did Terminator Genisys come out? And I feel like that was another, like, nostalgia bubble burst. Like, Alien Covenant level. God, I fucking hate how they spelled Genesis. No, Genesis was 2015. God, that came out the same year as The Force Awakens. Force Awakens, much better movie. Yeah, I do not care about Terminator anymore. I don't think I'll ever watch Dark Fate. I don't even think I'm even gonna give it a shot. I'm not morbidly curious about it like I was with Dark Phoenix. Oh, that was a mistake. So the only real TV news that I'm really aware of is The Mandalorian and Game of Thrones, which I never watched Game of Thrones, so I'm not invested in it at all. But I do know it left just about everyone unsatisfied. Like, I don't know anyone who genuinely liked the last season. So there's that, and there's... Again, without having seen Game of Thrones, this is kind of my unprofessional diagnosis. There's only so much you can only subvert expectations so much before the subversion becomes the expectation. Like, I remember saying this a while ago, and I think I said this on a podcast as well. If the final season of Game of Thrones, if the final season of Game of Thrones really wanted to subvert expectations, none of the major characters would have died. That would have been subversion. Game of Thrones has been going on for 8 years, for 8 seasons. And lots of characters have died throughout its entirety. Major characters. That became the expectation. So how do you subvert expectations when the expectation is everyone dies? Don't kill anyone off. There's always clever twists. There's always clever twists you can do with a formula. But you have to be aware of the formula. When you change the formula, you have to be aware of the changes you made to that formula. so that if you want to change it again, you know what to do. So yeah, only other TV show I really only other like Western show I should say, was The Mandalorian, and I'll get to that later. Anime. This was actually a really good year for anime. I feel like I was a little premature last year saying that I'm done with seasonal anime hype. Now a lot of this was thanks to friends make me watch stuff. But I watched a lot more new anime this year than I think I have in any other year. No, I'm we're actually behind on My Hero Academia. I need to get on Raymond about setting times for reacting to that, because I've been watching My Hero Academia season 4 with Raymond McNeil, Fatman, and Dashi. And I've read the manga, so it doesn't matter if I end up joining on the reaction, because I'm just adding my insight as a manga reader and monitoring stuff and making sure that like nothing gets spoiled. Like that's kind of my job on those reactions. So I can kind of afford to take, the loss, but they really need to see it. Oh, She-Ra. I'll mention She-Ra later too, because they also need to watch She-Ra season 4, and that there's a lot of stuff that we need to sit down and have them watch. I'll get to the big one later, because y'all know what's coming. If anyone familiar with me on social media or YouTube knows what's coming. Toby, I was literally just about to mention Kaguya-sama. Kaguya-sama Love is War might be my anime of the year. It was really good and really funny and dense and had a lot of rewatch value. And I think the only problem I had is that it really deserves a really awesome English dub. Because there's so many things happening all at once. There's so many people talking. You have the narrator talking at the same time as the characters talking over themselves, and it flows really nicely, and the acting is really good, and the jokes are really funny, and you miss it because you have to keep pausing to read, because there's no way you're gonna read all of it. My other issue with Kaguya-sama is that I don't think it has a lot of longevity. I think there's only so much they can kind of do with that premise before it starts getting tiresome. In the same way that most, American sitcoms get tiresome after 3 or so seasons. So I hope it doesn't end up outstaying its welcome. I hope they actually give it an ending before too long. Assuming it even gets a second season, that is. I haven't read the manga, so I have no idea how things pan out. Demon Slayer is my other contender for anime of the year. And I've been reading the manga now, and I have not been impressed with the manga. I don't think the manga is very good. I plan on doing a review of Demon Slayer once it ends. But I'll give kind of a Cliff Notes version of it. Characterizations are pretty one note. None of the characters really change. All the changes are purely physical. It has this, very rigid formula. Training arc, monster hunt. Training arc, monster hunt. Training arc, monster hunt. And it never breaks away from that. And we're in the final arc. They're fighting, in the manga right now, they're fighting Muzan. They're fighting the last demon. And it never broke away from that very rigid training arc, monster hunt. Training arc, monster hunt. Like every other major shonen, they broke away from that formula multiple times. Like there's multiple arcs from like One Piece and Naruto and stuff like that are completely different from all the other arcs. Demon Slayer doesn't have that going for it, and I think it's a weaker manga because of that. But the anime takes that and just like shoots it up with a bunch of anime steroids. some of the best voice acting, some of the best sound design, some of the best effects, some of the best animation and camera work, and cinematography is probably not the right word when talking about animation, but cinematography. And it's they make it literally the best anime it could possibly be with that story. Making it, the best adaptation ever. And it's a level of adaptation we don't see these major shonen titles get. Not even My Hero Academia got an adaptation that good. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. There's a lot of times where I'm disappointed with the My Hero Academia anime because I feel like they don't go far enough like that. I feel like with My Hero Academia, you can really see where the budget cuts are and what they're saving up for. But with Demon Slayer, I didn't see any budget cuts. Every single episode seemed to be bringing its A game. Only other show I've watched is Dr. Stone, which is another one I was reacting with Raymond and Fatman, and that one I really want to get back into, but we're going to do My Hero Academia first, and then we're going to do Dr. Stone, and then Raymond's probably going to be done with all non-Ruby reactions after that. But Dr. Stone's been pretty good so far. Connor Hines said, I don't like the drawing style in the manga, but Demon Slayer is really short comparatively. Yeah. Yeah, the artist isn't, particularly good. And he over designs his characters too. A lot of the characters in Demon Slayer are very much over designed. Particularly the pillars. Like, Love Pillar. What's her face? I'm blanking. I'm blanking on her name because I never really cared about her as a character. But you know which one I'm talking about. The one with she has like the really long starchy pink hair that blends into like green hair at the tips. And she has like the really big like pigtail things and has like all these little nifty little pieces in her outfit and all this cleavage and stuff and all these wacky facial expressions, and then because of that, it's a little over designed and it kind of looks it kind of loops around into not being good. There's a lot of characters like that too. There's a lot of characters that have like the two hair colors, and I've never been a fan of that. Like Nezuko has the black hair that turns into like this reddish brown. Shimoda has the black hair that turns into purple. Inosuke has like a blue streak in his hair for some reason. Zenitsu has like the yellow and orange. I think Tanjiro at one point even had a red streak of hair, but I might be misremembering that. Then now for the big one. And this manga and anime. Actually, no, not time for the big one yet. Time for the big one. This is the year I caught up to One Piece. I caught up to One Piece pretty early on this year. After starting it, thank you, Coop. Kanroji is the love pillar. Yeah, I couldn't remember her name. One Piece has been pretty good this year. It's been stuck in Wano, stuck in the like second act of Wano, and so, there was a point where it was like trending every week on Twitter though, and that's impressive. It's still at the top. Technically, Demon Slayer's outsold it this year, but Demon Slayer's not going to be around for much longer. Like One Piece is just kind of like, it's just kind of keeping One Piece's seat warm while Oda gets ready for this massive climax that's gonna hit us like a fucking King Kong gun to the gut. Because this arc has already been very long, and in order to really pay off everything that's going on, that action is gonna be insane. Yeah, One Piece is very good. Y'all should read it. It is worth the hype. Uh, but the big one for me, and the one that has really defined my year, like this is the thing that has been in my head the most over the last 12 months. And it was something I found in March. Is the quintessential quintuplets. It's so good, guys, I swear. Um, and I'm actually going to use this to plug my Patreon. There's a link in the description for my Patreon. Go ahead and support that if you can. Uh, $1 or more will put your name in the credits of All My Honest Looks for as long as you're donating. And you will have access to audio from an upcoming video I'm working on about quintessential quintuplets. Because that is actually on my Patreon right now. It's been up there for a couple days now. So $1 or more will get you access to that, and $10 or more will get you a video commission. So I will be talking about quintessential quintuplets at extreme depth over the next few months. It's one of my absolute favorite comics. Manga or otherwise. Doesn't matter. Just the level of characterization and depth and nuance, and how, it has 6 main characters whose philosophies and arcs all, like, intersect and bind together with this very, like, fate-based setup that it's so interesting and so good. I actually recently, last night I was just like kind of skimming through some stuff. I was like, I wonder what this is. And I'm gonna explain what it is. So Yotsuba's name, Yotsuba is one of the quintuplets, and her name literally translates to 428. So I thought, what happened on chapter 42, page 8? And what I found blew my mind. Because chapter 42, page 8 of the manga was the part in the Seven Goodbyes arc where Futaro is talking to Rena, in his mind, his childhood friend, who's actually one of the Quints in disguise. That much is obvious when she shows up. About the girls and what his thoughts on all of them are. And it goes pretty in depth with Ichika, Nino, Miku, Itsuki, but Yotsuba, it actually cuts off. He's like, and plus she's, no, I'm just overthinking things, but she's still an idiot. And that was just like, we never really found out what he was going to say until the most recent chapters, when he chooses Yotsuba and when he talks to her and tells her that how thankful he is that she's always supported him. And that information just blew my mind, because like, I gotta be reading too much into it, right? Like, there's no way Neji Haruba planned that, but that's not the only time that's happened. It's not the only time that something like really nuanced and something that like no one would have noticed actually thematically ties in with what happens later. And it's one of those things where like, you can't unsee it now. I can't unsee that now. Just like go back to 428, like 4 plus 2 plus 8 equals 14. Volume 14 is the final volume in quintessential quintuplets. It's wrapping up in the next month or two. And it's because Yotsuba is just this really important thing in the end, and it's just been blowing my mind, and I love it. And all the art is really good. My phone is like 90% Quint art. All the fan art I have on my computer, on my laptop right now, is Quint stuff. I don't have any fan art from any other series right now. And if you go on the Discord, which link should also be in the description for that, the art channel is just all Quint stuff from me. Because I have a lot of sources for it. It's been my absolute favorite thing this year. Hands down. And with that, let's move on to video games. Because video games have not been good this year. And it really shows with the Game Awards. Which... Speaking of quiz, I just found this really freaking, like, cute picture of Nino. Hold on, let me post this. To load. Sorry, this just distracted me and made me smile. I'll post it to Discord. Copy link. Put it in the chat. No. Paste. Damn it, I hit the wrong thing. Is it gonna load? There we go. Yeah, no, that's what I've been saying. It might as well be a quintuplet Discord at this point. Anyway, that picture I just posted a link in. It's really cute. Nino's really cute. They're all really cute. Anyway, video games. What even came out this year? Like I'm saying that, like, honestly, like, let me look. See, Kingdom Hearts 3. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3 came out at the beginning of this year, and that was trash, honestly. Like, I was fine with it while I was playing it, but the further I get from it, the more I just, like, hate it. Let's just look up games in 2019. Didn't play Control. Sekiro was basically just Weeb Souls Light because Neo was Weeb Souls, and Sekiro is just a lighter version of that from Software. Decent game though, I guess. Death Stranding was... I am so glad that people are starting wising up to Kojima's hackery, and not just his hackery, but the hackery of Jeff Keighley, who runs the Game Awards. Good one, Ash. Okay, Resident Evil 2 Remake, I think, is a step in the right direction as far as remakes go. I think if we're gonna be remaking games, we should do it in the way Resident Evil 2 did. Because it's a top to bottom, it's the same story, and a lot of the same, like, level design stuff, but complete top to bottom remake as far as, you know, camera system, combat system, not controls, inventory, graphics. It's not just a graphical update like a lot of the remakes / re-releases have been in years past. Outer Worlds was... I didn't play it, but I watched people play it, and I saw, like, Razorfist stream on it, and from what I saw, I have to agree with them. People are giving Obsidian a free pass just because they're not Bethesda, even though Outer Worlds is doing the exact same thing as Fallout 4. It's not a better game than Fallout 4. People are just, you know, giving it a free pass because it doesn't have the stench of Fallout 76 on it. Pokemon Sword and Shield it's just another Pokemon game. It's just another generation of Pokemon. Apex Legends, I do not care about. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, again, a remake. A goddamn remake. Of a game that's, like, barely over 10 years old. Like, at least with Resident Evil 2, it's such an archaic game. It was from the 90s. It was PlayStation, and then PlayStation games do not hold up as well as even older games from the NES or Super Nintendo. But Call of Duty 4 is a game that runs fine on modern hardware. Like, it came out on PS3 and Xbox 360, which are not all that... The PS4 and Xbox One are not that much more impressive than the PS3 and 360 were. There's no reason why Modern Warfare was the one that got remade. Luigi's Mansion 3, from what I saw, kind of a disappointment, honestly. Devil May Cry 5, again, it's Devil May Cry, and I'm not that big into Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry is one of those franchises I've always liked and never loved, and that's, Devil May Cry. Bits of it that I've seen, kind of same deal. Kingdom Hearts 3 sucked. Borderlands 3 it's just another Borderlands game. Super Mario Maker 2, it's just Super Mario Maker with more bells and whistles. Mortal Kombat 11, it's just another modern day Mortal Kombat game, and probably not even as good as Mortal Kombat X. Darksiders Genesis is just another Darksiders game. Metro Exodus, not actually familiar with that. Gears 5, it's Gears of War, but with tits. And nobody cared. Days Gone is literally just Last of Us, but open world. Days Gone might be the worst game of the year, by the way. At least the most uninspired. They even have like the same inventory screens and menu fonts. They use the same fonts as The Last of Us in its menus and stuff. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassingly dull. The Division 2, I have no idea why people even played The Division. The Division is awful. So I have no idea why you even got a sequel. Yoshi's Crafted World is just another, like, Yoshi Yarn game. Crash Team Racing Nitro Refueled or whatever. It's just a polished up version of Crash Team Racing. Which is a good game, but again, it's like... It's very much in that we're just going to update the graphics and nothing else school of remakes that I'm growing increasingly not fond of. Planet Zoo is actually super deep, and I wish I had a computer that could run it. I wish I had a really good computer and that I could get this game, because I was really fond. In case you didn't notice from all the streams I've done at it, I'm very fond of Frontier and what they did with Jurassic World, and Planet Zoo is like their baby. Like, that Planet Zoo is the one that they spent the most time developing. Like, that was in development for many, many years, and is certainly their deepest experience. Aegis Joycap said, your take on Sword Shield Civil War? No, because I don't even know what that means. Like, is it because, like, it's the same as every other Pokemon generation where there's Pokemon you can only get in specific games? Because that was a diabolical marketing tactic that they started all the way back in, like, Red and Blue back in the 90s. And nothing has really changed. Oh god, Rage 2 came out this year. That might be another pick for worst game of the year. God, like, who asked for that? Nobody liked Rage. And then, the magnum opus of dog shit. Death Stranding. The Amazon package delivery simulator. Complete with hipster glasses and faux ironic references and pretense out the ass. Get it? His name is Bridges because he's gonna connect all of us. God, fuck Kojima. I am so glad that game is flopping. And don't listen to the, like, Like, don't listen to the hyperbole that the gaming media is throwing out at Death Stranding. Actually look at the words. It's the best-selling game on PS4 in that quarter for a Kojima production. Like, the more hairs you split, the more of a failure it actually was. Sorry, just bumped my mic. It flopped. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The fact that they haven't actually released sales numbers, as far as I'm aware, proves it. And, gee, who would have thought that the guy who ran Konami into the ground and forced them to just make pachinko machines because they can't afford a AAA budget anymore would have, been bad with the budget? Who would have thought, Agent Storycap said, "Oh no, I mean regarding the Dex cuts. I think the Dex cuts are something they should have been doing from the outset, honestly. The reason why I don't play Pokemon games is they're just DLC at this point. They had many generations where the gameplay didn't change. The characters were technically different, but they all had like the same characterization and arcs and stuff. You had the same stereotypes in each game. You had the rivalry of the professor, gym leaders, etc. All you had was like a slightly different map and more Pokemon. Not different Pokemon, just more. They were paying full price for double DLC. And I was never a fan of that. I always thought they needed to cut the fat. They needed to make each region unique. Make it to where they all have a different set of Pokemon. Like, you can have the same, like, 10 or so Pokemon for each, area, but the rest these need to be different countries or different continents with completely different ecosystems. Like, we don't have elephants here in America. We don't have elephants anywhere on this hemisphere anymore. They're only in Africa and Asia. So, if Pokemon are just supposed to be this world's animals, then you would realistically think that not every animal is going to be on every single continent. And that's true in a sense that these continents add more Pokemon, but I'm going to use Sun and Moon as the example. Why is this little island area based on Hawaii have every single Pokemon from all these major continents crammed onto this island, plus 50 or so new Pokemon? Like, why is the diversity of life so much bigger on the Aloha region than it ever was on Kanto? So I always thought the National Dex was actually a good idea. And I also think the Let's Go games are a better version of Pokemon, because the appeal of Pokemon for me as a kid, watching the anime and not playing the games, was the idea of living in this world where you're just running around, camping out with your friends, and encountering all these wonderful, majestic, mystical creatures that are just animals with superpowers, and they're just everywhere. The games never scratched that niche for me. The games never capitalized on that core appeal to me. With the exception of Pokemon Snap. Pokemon Snap kind of tapped into it with the idea of just looking at these Pokemon in their natural habitat and taking pictures of them. That's why I really like Pokemon Snap. Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee was the first Pokemon game that really made that the focus. Which is why it's the one I'm going to get when I get a Switch. I'm not going to get Sword and Shield. When I am going to get a Switch eventually, not going to get a Sword and Shield, I will get Let's Go Pikachu. Now let's see, I've been going for about an hour. It's good. So, what do you want me to talk about first? Actually, I'm going to make that decision for you. I'm going to talk about The Mandalorian first. and I'm not going to talk in depth, because I do have a review I'm working on. I'm hoping it comes out tomorrow. It might be Thursday that when it comes out though. And then we're also going to be doing a podcast on it sometime in the next week. It's going to be me, Dude, and whoever else is available when Dude is. We'll talk about it more in depth there. Mandalorian, though, really solid stuff. Played things safe, and it had a lot writing on it. Disney Plus needed this to be a hit, and so they played things very safe because Disney Plus was basically going to ride or die based on not the quality of The Mandalorian, but the perceived quality of The Mandalorian. And The Mandalorian seems to be the Star Wars show made for everyone. It's the Star Wars show that, like, even if you don't like it, you can at least respect it a little bit. It's got the look, it's got the feel, it's got the, it's got the creatures and the effects. It's got movie level effects in a lot of places. And it's just really solid. It's really kind of hard to talk about because a lot of it's episodic. So I'm actually gonna go and kind of episode to episode and give a brief little review of each episode, and then in my actual review I'll talk about kind of the show in general. Episode 1, pretty solid introduction. I really love the action scene. I've always adored the IG units. The IG hunter droids. Mandalorian, he's pretty cool. He's a bit of a badass, but he also gets his ass kicked a lot throughout the series, and I really appreciated that. Episode 2, I wasn't as fond of because I felt like it was padding. That was the one with, like, the Jawas and then the giant rhino thing, and then turns out Baby Yoda's force sensitive. Ooh, who would have guessed? Baby Yoda's adorable, by the way. All the memes are just great. Episode 3, possibly my favorite episode. It's between episode 3 and episode 8 for my favorite episode. That action scene in the really big Mandalorian with the big fuck off Gatling laser cannon thing, just swooping in, and I feel like a kid talking about this, like, and then this is the kind of show where the Mandalorian, when he, like, quick draws his blaster pistol, he fans the hammer of the revolver. And it's not a revolver, it doesn't have a hammer to fan, but that's just the motion he makes because this is Western as fuck. That's how Western it is. I don't know if he actually does that, but I always got the feel that's what he was doing when he would do his quick draw. Episode 4, the only episode I wasn't fond of. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, the feminist. Yeah, it is kind of stupid that this, like, normal-ass shock trooper chick is able to punch Mandalorian hard enough to knock him down when he's wearing, like, indestructible armor. That is kind of stupid, but my main problem with this episode was actually that it's very cliche. Not only is this not the first time we've seen this setup, it's not even the first time we've seen this setup in a Star Wars show. There's an episode of Clone Wars that had this exact same premise, which was, the bounty hunter, he comes in, befriends the town, and then protects them and trains them how to fight. I think there's actually a couple episodes in Clone Wars like that, now that I'm thinking about it. Episode 5 was the most filler-ish. It was definitely the most episodic. But it was classic, gunslinger stuff, and that was one that took place on Tatooine, and it was really kind of neat to see Tatooine in this context. And then episode 6, probably the second weakest episode in my opinion, just because I don't think they went far enough. I think it really showed how safe they were playing Mando, where, he has no problem killing all the nameless characters, but once a character gets a name, he doesn't want to kill them. And so I don't think there's a good reason for him to leave that crew alive at the end. Once they betray him and it like faces out with like, oh, he's on the hunt and he's killing them one by one, and then it turns out that they're all alive at the end. I felt like that was pretty weak. Then episode 7 and 8 were just excellent, 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 excellent job wrapping up that season, and the Darksaber at the end. Yeah, that was a big oh my god moment. Yeah. So Mandalorian, I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10. One week episode and one like week ending to an episode. Everything else was pretty solid. I am actually going to grab another drink because I just destroyed my voice talking about all that stuff. So I'll be back in just a few seconds. Alright, I'm back. IG-11 will live on in our hearts. Yes, he will. I thought the horn dude straight up got crushed to death. Yeah, same. How is he still alive? Anyway, now, that was my brief thoughts on The Mandalorian, which is my pick for best show of the year. That's why I had to look up Daredevil Season 3 first. Because if that had come out this year instead of into last year, then that would have been number one. Because Daredevil Season 3 is still, like, damn near perfect. So yeah, as far as TV shows I've seen overall, I would say Mandalorian, number one. And then I would probably go Kaguya-sama, Demon Slayer, She-Ra Season 4, and then quintuplets would round out the top 5. Because the quintuplets anime, I was very kind of... That's kind of how I got into it. I watched the first few episodes of the anime first, and then started reading the manga from there. It's just because it's still just a really good story, and they do a good enough job. Quintuplets is the anime adaptation that's good enough. So as far as adaptations go, I would actually put quintuplets right there with My Hero Academia. As far as like what they do with the material that they're given, but because the adaptation nature is on the level, quintuplets has to be above it because it's just a better written story than My Hero Academia ever was. Anyway, video games. Jedi Fallen Order. I also felt they played this pretty safe too, but there's some ambitious elements to it that I really appreciated. And again, spoilers for this game as well. I won't get as in-depth because I do want to do an entire stream series with Jedi Fallen Order. I am so down to playing through this game again. It's the game where, like, as soon as I was finished, I was like, okay. A lot of games, when I finish a game, if I finish a game, I should say, there's one of 3 reactions I always get. There's either, oh my god, it's finally over, I have no real desire to touch that again, or, oh, I'm satisfied, now what, maybe I'll come back to it later, whatever. And then there's the, wow, I really want to just keep playing. I wish there was more. Jedi Fallen Order gave me the, oh wow, I really just want more feel. Uh, um, not everything worked in Fallen Order. From a conceptual standpoint, I think in execution everything was perfect. But there's some things on the conceptual level that I don't think worked in its favor. Uh, so, for instance, this is just something I've not liked the new canon on. On the whole, I've actually liked a lot of the stuff that Disney has done with Star Wars, but there's some things that just like infuriate me. And one of the things that just really gets under my skin is the way the Jedi Purge is treated. In Revenge of the Sith and in the original trilogy and stuff, the Purge was seen as like just this absolute massacre where very few Jedi survived, and the ones who did were hunted down very swiftly by Darth Vader and Starkiller, after that. Or in between, getting closer to the original trilogy's time, Starkiller was active and hunting down the last remnants of the Jedi Order. But in the new canon, it's like hundreds of Jedi escaped. Like Ahsoka, we never find out how Ahsoka died. And she's just like super forced Jesus who got fucking saved by time travel bullshit and Rebels, and it's, oh god. I have not seen Rebels yet, but every spoiler I've seen of it has not been, okay, not every spoiler, but a lot of the spoilers I've seen as far as Ahsoka goes have not sat right with me. I like the idea of the Inquisitors and the Purge Troopers, but I don't like that the new canon made them necessary. I don't like the idea that there's all these younglings that escaped, like Cal in this game and canon and Rebels. I'm not fond of those ideas. Because on one hand, it kind of renders, the Luke's role as the last hope, a new hope, it kind of renders his role as a new hope moot. Yeah, he is way more powerful than any of these Jedi that were like running around during, the dark times, but he wasn't the only one apparently. It's just like, where was all these other, Jedi that had gone into hiding when the Death Star blew up? Or when the Rebels were getting stomped on Hoth? Or when they had their last desperate attack on Endor? Like, where was Cal? Where was Kanan? Where was Ezra? Where were these people? Where was Ahsoka? Because we don't actually know how she died. No, you think she'd have been very invested in, the whole Death Star thing, considering Vader. And yeah. And it also, another thing it does is it makes their journeys pointless. I like how Fallen Order addressed this issue, though, because the plot is about, Cal and this other person, Seer, that they're trying to like find this holocron that has the it's actually the same holocron from Clone Wars, I believe, that Cad Bane stole. That has like all these the locations of all these Force sensitive children on it. And they're going to use that to rebuild the Jedi Order. But we go into it knowing that they're gonna fail, because Jedi Order stays dead until Luke Skywalker comes about years and years later. but they address that in a very clever way. And by clever, I mean in the same way that Uncharted addresses all of its mysticism stuff, in that Cal comes to the realization that they're not worthy of restarting the Jedi Order. They do not stand a chance against Vader. They can barely hold their own against his Inquisitors, and if they try to gather up these children, they will just lead them to slaughter. And Cal comes to that realization and actually destroys the holocron at the end. Vader is in this game. Thank you, YouTube, for spoiling that for everyone. Vader comes in at the very end after you defeat the second sister. Who was actually really interesting because she was an apprentice to Cere, the secondary character in this game. And she got tortured into being an Inquisitor. And when Cere saw that she had turned, Cere actually tapped into the dark side and then got scared of herself and locked herself off from the Force. Which is apparently something a lot of people did at the time. Cal never did. I guess Cal didn't really know how to do that. And that's why he actually got busted by the second and ninth sister on his on that planet at the beginning. But yeah, Darth Vader comes in after that, kills the second sister for failing him, just yeets Cere off of the platform, and then it turns into Resident Evil 2, basically. He goes full Mr. X on you, and is just like ripping apart the base, trying to catch you, and you just gotta run. You can't stand and fight him. If you try to stand and fight, he'll kill you like instantly, and it's really cool. And you end up like going, because it's like kind of this underwater base that you're in, and you end up going through this like Bioshock tunnel, and he corners you, and you just like break the glass and try to just swim away while he's like holding it back because apparently he can't swim in that armor. But yeah, it's really great appearance that I really wish would have been a surprise the way it was in Rogue One. It did remind me a lot of Rogue One, the one good thing about Rogue One, which was Vader's massacre of the rebels and that. Gameplay wise, it's fine. It is kind of Soulsy. It's actually a lot more like Sekiro. Because one of the tentpoles of Dark Souls and Bloodborne is the weapon diversity. You know, you got swords and axes and spears and hammers and gauntlets and shields and all this stuff. Whereas Jedi Fallen Order, you just have a lightsaber. And it has like two modes. Like you have the single bladed mode, and then at a certain point in the game you unlock the double saber. And it's very counter heavy. It's always about like repelling. You know, you want to deflect blaster bolts back at people, counter people. They all have like this. All the melee enemies have like this block meter. They have to whittle down. You get all these little nifty tips and tricks that help you, in that different combos, different special abilities, different force powers. Force slow being the most useful. And the level design is very labyrinthine. There's a lot of times where I got lost. It's particularly on Zepho, the planet of Zepho, where you spend a lot of time on. It's so massive and so complex and loops around so much that I don't even know how to explore it. Post game, I was just like, I dropped down, I was like, I don't even know where I'm supposed to go to like explore and find stuff that I might have missed. The only level that doesn't really follow this is Kashyyyk, which, again, the marketing on this game is pretty good. It got me to care and got me interested, so it's good enough for that. I have no idea why Kashyyyk was the level that they chose to market this game around. I get it, it's the most familiar planet, because it's the only planet in this game that appears in any of the movies. So it has that going for it. And Wookiees are cool, and it has, probably some of the better enemy types. It has the like slug monsters with the ram horns and the giant spiders. And that giant bird that you kind of befriend. And it's the level that has the ninth sister boss fight, which was a lot of fun. But Kashyyyk is very linear compared to the other maps. It really goes against the design ethos for these maps in this game, which is much more Dark Souls labyrinthine, even more labyrinthine than the Jedi Knight games. I have to say that, Jedi Knight games better in most respects, particularly in saber combat. I don't think saber combat will ever be as good as the Jedi Knight games because consoles are so present. Because in the Jedi Knight games, you kind of aim with your mouse to strike, and you put in the combos with your mouse movements, and you can't really do that with a controller. Can't really recreate that with a controller. So I don't think saber combat will ever be as deep as it is in Jedi Academy. But I thought it was deep enough. The saber combat was at least deeper than Force Unleashed, though Force Unleashed made up for it with Force powers. So I would have it, quality wise, it's right up there with Force Unleashed for me. It's not as good as Knights of the Old Republic or Battlefront or any of the Jedi Knight games, but it's still very solid. It's hands down the best Star Wars game since Force Unleashed. Force Unleashed came out over 10 years ago, so best Star Wars game in 10 years. That's a worthy accolade until you look at the competition, which is just EA's Battlefront and Force Unleashed 2, which was awful. So yeah, again, I give Jedi Fallen Order an 8 out of 10 as well. Very solid, very fun. I'm looking forward to playing it on stream with you guys. Might do that in a couple days, actually. I would really like to do that sooner rather than later. Then, especially since, we're recording podcasts tomorrow. That's going to be rendering. I'm probably going to render that all day Friday. So, Friday, I will stream Jedi Fallen Order while that podcast renders. Because that's how I like to do things. And now for the moments you've probably all been waiting for. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. It's not bad. I kinda liked it. I kinda liked it a lot, actually. But also not at all. How do I explain why Rise of Skywalker kind of worked for me? It didn't do anything. It didn't do anything to actively piss me off, which is the first time since The Force Awakens that's happened. It played things fairly safe, but at the same time, there was no playing it safe. Even as safe as they played it, there's people bitching about, oh, why is Rose Tico? I refuse to believe that there's actual Rose Tico stands out there. And she was fine in this episode. And much better than she was in Last Jedi, where she derailed the entire plot. It was the worst thing in the entire fucking franchise. I liked Rey in this. I really liked what they did with Rey. I wish they would have went further. That was a complaint I had. There's a fake out where, Chewbacca gets captured, Rey's trying to, hold the ship back, and Kylo Ren is trying to push the ship forward using the Force. And Rey gets angry and ends up shooting lightning from her fingers and vaporizes that ship. And presumably Chewbacca on it. I wish that would have actually happened. I love Chewbacca, but holy shit, you want to talk about a bold move for Star Wars? Have the main character kill Chewbacca and then have to live with that guilt? Like, that would have been, like, amazing. I liked Hux being the spy. The whole, I don't care if you win, I just want Kylo Ren to lose. That fits in very well with this character who's kind of had this rivalry with Kylo Ren. And remember in Last Jedi when Kylo Ren was, like, knocked out after killing Snoke, Kylo Ren, like, or Hux, like, reached for his blaster, was about to finish him off. I don't get why people are complaining about force healing. Force healing has always been a thing in the expanded universe. That was always... There's always limits to it, though. Like, you could repair damage, but you can't, like, heal entire organs. You can't regrow limbs. And it's... How do I explain why I like force healing? So long as the wound isn't fatal, force healing works pretty fine. Like when Baby Yoda used force healing on Carl Weathers in episode 7 of Mandalorian, he just kind of like repaired his arm a little bit and pulled the poison out. And it knocked him out. Rey, kind of stitches up the Dune worm thing in the beginning to establish that she can force heal. And then she, like, repairs just a little lightsaber hole inside Kylo Ren's stomach. That's the only force healing she does. The only absurd force healing thing doesn't even come from Rey. It's Kylo Ren that uses force healing. That I kind of call BS on. I buy Rey knowing that. I buy Leia knowing that. I feel like that would be the one thing Leia would have learned as a Jedi. Like, even more so than telekinesis, just because, Leia's much more in that leadership role. She's not a Jedi Knight. She's more of a Jedi counselor than a Knight. Luke was the Knight. She was the, political end of the Skywalker siblings. So, it makes sense that Rey would learn that. I don't understand why Kylo Ren knew it as well. I guess he might have learned it, like, way earlier from Luke or Leia back in the day and had just never used it. And then, what was I gonna say? And on that note, I don't know why Kylo Ren disappeared when he died. I don't think he earned it. I don't think he earned becoming a Force Ghost. Which I know he didn't technically show up as a Force Ghost, but that's what it means when you disappear like that. Leia absolutely did. And I feel like that was always going to be something that this movie had to kind of skirt around. Because there's three major things behind the scenes that went wrong with this movie on the script writing phase. And they had to account for all three of these things. One, Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams apparently don't get along. And it shows. It really shows in this movie that J.J. Abrams had an idea. And Rian Johnson had a different idea. And Kathleen Kennedy went with Rian Johnson. And so Rian Johnson kind of fucked everything up for JJ. And JJ had to backpedal and be like, no, she's Rey Palpatine. And so it felt kind of like worlds collided there. Like, the original trilogy didn't have much of a plan either, honestly. Like, George Lucas said, he wrote a lot of it by the seat of his pants. Same thing with prequels. But it was still the vision widely of one guy. He at least was able to account for himself and make changes as he saw fit. As opposed to Rise of Skywalker, where, in Last Jedi, Rian Johnson said, "Oh, Rey's parents were nobody," because he didn't care about that. He didn't like Rey. He didn't like that whole mystery box thing. And JJ was like, "No, I was gonna do something with that," and then he ended up doing it. And I think that the abject lesson is have a plan. Uh, have a couple people working on that first movie on the script writing phase. And have them be the writers. You can have different directors. Now, the original trilogy actually had 3 different directors. It had George Lucas in the first one, Irvin Kershner in the second one, and Ralph McQuand in the third. And so have J.J. Abrams and like 2 other people write all 3 movies and just have different people direct. J.J. gets Force Awakens. Rian Johnson still directs Last Jedi, but don't let Rian Johnson write Last Jedi. Have him just be the director. Make that movie, visually appealing like he often does. And then have... I think if they would have done that, Colin Trevorrow wouldn't have left. That's the second thing I was going to mention. Colin Trevorrow leaving. I want to know what this movie would have been like had Colin Trevorrow stayed with it the entire time. Because it probably would have been very different. And the third thing, Carrie Fisher's death. I feel like they really wanted Leia to be the big mentor figure in this movie, the way that Han was in Force Awakens and Luke was in Last Jedi, and Leia was supposed to be in this one, but they weren't able to do much with her because Carrie Fisher died back in 2016, before this movie even started filming. So they had to kind of CGI, deep fake, and reuse dialogue and have whatever scenes they did film ahead of time in this movie, and then just had to have her go comatose for the rest of the movie and then die, which I actually liked. I think that was the one thing that really was working in this again. It was working against this movie, but it ended up working out in the end a lot more than a lot of the other stuff did, and that was I think they really did a good job with Carrie Fisher. And gave her the respectable send-off that character deserves, which is using the last of her energy to save her son from himself. Now, with that said, reason why I like Rey, and the reason why I don't think she's nearly as good of a character as Luke. Luke is a character who kind of always knew the right thing, but not how to go about doing it. He didn't know about the Force. He didn't know about Jedi. He didn't know about his upbringing or anything else. He didn't know what it would take to defeat the Empire until he was defeated by the Empire. Rey, on the other hand, is someone who always knew how to do the stuff. She has the high midichlorian count. She's a Palpatine. I actually like that idea. I like that. I like the idea of her being a Palpatine. She has these ultra instincts. She's very physically fit when we first meet her. She's already super just strong physically as well as with the Force. Super powerful, but she doesn't know what to do with that power. She doesn't know, whether she should be a Jedi or a Sith or a dark side user or just a scavenger, whether she should just stay on Jakku or not. She doesn't know what to do with her abilities until this movie. That's the arc that she goes on. Is she's a lot more like Superman in that regard, I guess. Whereas Luke was a lot more like Captain America. Luke had the ideals but not the power. Rey has the power but not the ideals, and that's the parallel arcs that they go on, and I actually really like that. I also like what they did with Kylo Ren. I think the acting in the movie was actually very good, and that's been an odd thing about these new Star Wars movies, because in the old Star Wars movies the acting was always the weakest part. Even A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, acting at its best still kind of hammy. Whereas this, the actors are really bringing their A game but they're not given as good a material to work with. I think this had some of the best character writing in the trilogy. Particularly, I really like the dynamic between Poe and Rey, who didn't get any real interactions in the last two movies. And so this movie really had to put in a lot of the legwork that Rian Johnson didn't put in when he should have. Because Rian Johnson didn't care about the side characters. He just gave them ham-fisted, half-baked plots just to fill time. Like I've said on numerous occasions, Rose Tico and Finn's plotline in Last Jedi doesn't matter. It doesn't amount to anything. There's no thematic weight to it. It doesn't tie in with thematic. It doesn't tie in narratively, thematically, or emotionally with anything that Rey's doing in that movie, or anything that Poe's doing or going through in that movie. It's a complete non sequitur. It doesn't matter. The movie would be 90%. The movie would be 10 times better if you literally just skip it. I know because I've done it. I've had viewings of The Last Jedi where every time it cuts to the Rose/Finn plotline, I skip it. Okay. Gonna read some of these. Aegis Joycap said, "Oh hey, I kind of like this anti-hero angle. They're taking Kylo Ren. It's going in. Are they going to come in? Nope, he's dead because we went to the Adam Tor school of running away from things." I don't agree with that. I felt like his death was earned. You know, he sacrificed himself to save Rey and make up for all the damage he had done. Well, wasn't Johnson the guy that licks the feet of authoritarian women? Yeah, Rian Johnson's a hack and a soy boy. Aegis Joycap said, and didn't you give Ruby's Robin Hill some slack for being a know-it-all with no idea what to do with it or what's going on? I gave her some slack at first. I'm gonna start giving her a lot less slack from here on because she does know what's going on, a lot more than like a lot of the council members do apparently. But I'll talk about that with the podcast for Volume 7, Episode 8. They never explain how Palpatine came back, which I'm kind of glad about because it I mean, he says the dark side is a path to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. And maybe it's just because I had just played Jedi Fallen Order, where one of the main antagonists is a Night Sister who literally just resurrects zombie Night Sisters to fight you. I was on board with it. It fits in with what the Force can do in canon. I like the idea of Rey kind of being possessed by all the Jedi. It kind of explains a lot of her abilities. Doesn't explain Kylo Ren's abilities though. Kylo Ren was the OP one in this movie actually. You know, thinking back on it, you know, in isolation, I think Rise of Skywalker would work a lot more. Like, imagine this. Imagine you didn't see Force Awakens or Last Jedi. You just get dropped in, and you know that, like, Rey is the super powerful Jedi Knight who's still, like, kind of doing a little bit of, finishing up her training with, you know, Princess Leia, who is the, you know, daughter of Vader and stuff. And they just go on this adventure. I think it would work a lot better at that. Whereas it's trying to be like this close off of this new trilogy and also of the entire Skywalker saga, this entire 9-movie epic, and it kind of peters in that regard. What else? Like I'm having a hard time thinking of stuff I didn't like. The plot was a little thin and slapdash. Uh, like when Palpatine's like destroy a planet that they knew. I'm like, what planet are they gonna destroy? Because there's no planet that any of these characters really call home. Like Maz Kanata's planet that where she has her bar. Jakku, no one likes Jakku. Uh, like what planet? Oh, the planet that they literally just got off of and spent a whole like 10 minutes on. Okay, I guess. Yeah, I felt that was weak. I felt that the whole naval battle was pretty weak. They didn't do enough with that. They had like all these two extremely massive fleets, the two biggest fleets we had ever seen in the saga, and it doesn't show it. It doesn't show the space battle a whole lot. I like the idea that Finn is force sensitive, but they never end up really doing anything with that. Uh, I think Rey did earn the Skywalker name because that's the closest thing she's had to a family was Leia in particular. To Han and Chewie as well, and Finn, Poe, whatever, Luke, I guess. Even though he was just kind of a crotchety old jerk to her for the short time that she knew him, but I did get kind of emotional. I was like, oh, that's so sweet when she's like, I'm Rey Skywalker. Would have been cool if she would have owned the Palpatine name though, and taken that one last victory over the Emperor. Been like, oh, I'm Rey Palpatine because now Palpatine is a good name for good people. Because fuck the Emperor. The whole thing with the dagger was kind of weird. Uh, I usually like the ancient relic map stuff, but this is like an ancient relic that's actually only like 30 years old, and that was kind of weird. A weird movie, odd movie, and it's not I hesitate to say it's not ambitious enough because it is obviously very ambitious, especially effect wise. Um, little soulless though, little hollow because they weren't able to like kind of go all the way with anything because of all the behind the scenes drama that just really shows. Would it add anything else if she'd made her surname double barreled? Like I'm Rey Skywalker Palpatine or whatever. Uh, that could work. I don't think there's any precedent for that in Star Wars though. Um, Also another thing I like, and this is just not something it did, but something it didn't do. It didn't have too many like super obvious, oh, this only exists to sell toys. Like it had the little microphone robot thing, but he ended up kind of mattering to the plot a little bit. Um, yeah, yeah. I nothing in Rise of Skywalker, pissed me off. Like, just go through like Rogue One pissed me off because I didn't care about any of the characters. It was super just flat and dull and lifeless, and it tried like fooling people into caring without giving them a reason to actually care. Uh, I hated it. No, I got pissed off at Last Jedi for the whole Rose Tico plot line and for like doing Luke so dirty and for killing Snoke so early on, so unceremoniously. Um, and I hated Solo for the everything, for the droid rights, for Lando, for um, all the BS twists that they crammed in at the end, for the bullshit with the space fuel, for Solo's name and where it came from, and for Emilia Clarke just not being a good actress. Um, Nothing like that in Rise of Skywalker though. I'd probably put it up there quality wise with like Attack of the Clones, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker are all like neck and neck for me. Completely interchangeable. I said this on Twitter. And for completely different reasons. Last Jedi, bold, ambitious, and purposely antagonistic towards the fandom. To the point where, like, it's kind of the Terminator 3 of Star Wars movies. Yeah, probably fine on its own, and certainly fine for people who aren't crazy about Star Wars, but for people who do have a lot of reverence and respect for the source material, Last Jedi was a big middle finger. Uh, Rise of Skywalker had the exact opposite problems, where it had almost too much reverence, and it was paying too much homage, and had too much respect, and it wasn't able to really do anything new or different. Same thing kind of happened with Force Awakens, honestly, and Attack of the Clones kind of had both issues, but to much lesser degrees. That it did have like reverence and respect because it was made by the same guy, but it had a lot of like frustrating elements while also a lot of dull elements, but the dull elements were not as dull as Rise of Skywalker's dull elements, and the frustrating elements were not as frustrating as Last Jedi's frustrating elements. But Rise of Skywalker never frustrated me. Last Jedi never bored me. And so Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, Attack of the Clones, all on the same kind of level for that. Because Attack of the Clones bored and frustrated me. Aegis Joy Cab, like, didn't Rey try to go back after the dagger after it outlived its plot use? I don't think so. No. No, she didn't. No, like, after she finds the Wayfinder, she never touches it again. No, that you are absolutely misremembering that. Eclectic 1995 said, "Have you discovered that you were related to one of the most evil beings in history? I think you would change your last name too. It's like if your last name is Hitler, I think that name can't be redeemed." Yeah, that's what I liked about Rey Palpatine, because she wasn't given a last name at birth. She was just Rey. Uh, because her parents did everything they could to bury that part of themselves and hide themselves from Palpatine and hide her from Palpatine because they were not fans of him. I really like that idea. But yeah, Aegis, you are absolutely misremembering the thing with the dagger. She goes after it because it also leads to the part of the wreckage that has the Wayfinder. Otherwise, she would have been there for years and years and years looking for it. And they didn't have the time to search the entire wreckage. They needed to know where the Emperor's throne room landed. And I also do like that was indoor. Because I know there was some confusion because the wreckage of the Death Star looked a lot like the same planet where all the Star Destroyers are. It was a different planet. There was just some confusion there. I think that's one of the things that dulled Rise of Skywalker for me, is how samey a lot of the planets look. Like, we go back to Endor, and it's very rainy and stormy and on the coast there. Uh, then you have the Sith world where Palpatine's at is very stormy and rainy and stuff. And then the other planet, the one that actually gets nuked at the nuked by Palpatine, like Kais I can't remember. Uh, the one with the droid hacker where they get the information out of C-3PO's head. Um, that was also like very rainy and stormy. So you had like basically three rainy, stormy type planets in the same movie. Uh, so I could definitely see how that would cause confusion in trailers in particular. But that didn't end up being the case. Um, but it did make the movie look more dull. Um, as well as like having, another desert planet. Uh, yeah, I'm just kind of going through the planet. None of the planets were interesting in this go around. I had the same problem with The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens, you basically had Jakku, which was Tatooine Light. You had Maz Kanata's Force Planet, which was just Yavin 4 Light. Then you had Starkiller Base, which was just not even a real planet. It's like an asteroid or something. Last Jedi, you at least did have the Casino Planet, which was a casino planet, certainly. And you had a Scarif, or whatever, the Salt Planet, with all the striking reds and stuff, and that was very visually interesting. Um, Rogue One, you had kind of the beach planet. Was that Scarif? Which one? Which one was Scarif? Which movie was Scarif on? So I'm having trouble remembering planet names for these new movies. I think Scarif was in Rogue One. I think Scarif was the beach planet in Rogue One. That was very visually interesting, or at least as far as Star Wars goes. Um, so the reason Rey could be as powerful as she was because of the Force bond between her and Ben Solo. So does that mean, with Ben dead, does that mean Rey can't be as powerful moving forward? No. No, it doesn't. I don't know where the idea of her only being strong because of the Force bond comes from. So the Force bond happened later. The Force bond happened after The Force Awakens, and it was something Snoke did in order to try turning her to the dark side by like binding her mind to Kylo Ren's. So yeah, the whole Force bond thing happened way after the fact for her. I think I'm gonna wrap it up pretty soon. Any? Okay, yeah. Scarif was Rogue One. And what was? I'm gonna look up what the planet was in Last Jedi. Last Jedi Salt Planet. Crate. It was Crate. I knew it was something kind of simple. Then what was Rise of Skywalker planets? I'm just gonna look up Rise of Skywalker planets. Every new planet in the Rise of Skywalker. Agen Kloss, which is the Resistance base. Pisana. Okay, you have Pisana, which was the new desert planet where like Rey cuts down Kylo Ren's lightsaber or TIE fighter. Kijimi was the planet that got nuked. Um, and then Kef Bir Wait. Okay. According to this, it wasn't the forest moon of Endor. It was another moon. The ocean moon of Endor, also called Kefbir. Um, so that's why it has so much different topography in it. Okay, this is actually interesting. I'm actually gonna just read this. One of the moons of the gas giant Endor, Kefbir, is an oceanic planetoid whose gravitational pull drew in much of the Death Star's debris after it was destroyed over the nearby forest moon. Kefbir is uninhabited, and as a result, a group of former First Order stormtroopers, led by Janna, have settled there for sanctuary. Though they don't know it, they're unwittingly living next to a major clue to the Sith redoubt of Exegol. And Exegol is the Sith planet. So Exegol, Kefbir, and Kijimi all kind of had a similar aesthetic, and that was one of my big problems with Rise of Skywalker. Noah Willie asks, what do you think of the expanded universe? Do you think the sequel trilogy should have been about Luke restoring the Jedi Order? Here's the thing. I don't think there's been a single story set after Return of the Jedi that's been very good. At all. I don't think the new movies have been very good story-wise. They've had a lot of really good ideas. And some of those good ideas were the same good ideas that were in the expanded universe. You know, like Imperial remnants and Dark Force users after Palpatine, and you know, stories about legacy and family and stuff like that, and the meta narratives. Very good ideas. But I don't think the Thrawn trilogy was very good. I don't think this Disney Star Wars trilogy was very good. I think the new Jedi Order books were awful. The Jedi Knight games, though phenomenal from a gameplay standpoint, not very good story wise. Same thing with the Legacy books, Legacy of the Force, which was probably the better of the three sets of post Return of the Jedi books, conceptually speaking. I don't think any of that's been very good. So with this new trilogy, I might do a video where I kind of rewrite, kind of take cues from Raymond's, Fixing Ruby series, and kind of give my two thoughts, because I have two very different thoughts. Because what are we talking about when we talk about what the new trilogy should have been? Are we talking how do we fix what we got, or what I would have done if I was given a blank notebook? What are we talking about? Because it's two very different ideas. I have very different ideas for what I would have done with Rey and Kylo Ren and Finn and Poe and all of them. But if I was given a blank slate, I would do something completely different. Because, Toby Senpai Kawaii asked, do you like Thrawn as a character? A little bit. He's certainly cool. But you want to talk about people who just have plot powers. Grand Admiral Thrawn is basically psychic and nobody talks about it. Yeah. So if I were to be given a blank canvas about back in 2012 or whatever, and tasked write a new Star Wars trilogy, I would I wouldn't use the older cast very much. I would have Leia as like a leader of the Republic or whatever, of the New Republic. I would have the Jedi Order be already reestablished because enough time has passed to where they would have been reestablished. And I would have focused on. I would have taken cues from Jason and Jaina Solo, as far as like two characters. One ends up being a good guy, one ends up being a bad guy, and they're related, and they diverge at a certain path, and then form this like rivalry, and and they pull the entire galaxy into their sibling rivalry. I would have went in that direction with it, and I would have kept Luke as like just the old mentor, and I probably would have killed him off in the third movie. I wouldn't have been in the second movie. I would have had him go out kind of the same way as Yoda. Um, and I would have had the new threat, the new Sith, or however, whatever you want to um hmm. Eclectic 1995 said a lot of people believe the sequel trilogy should have been about Luke's order focusing on the new generation. Um. Oh, yeah. It's not that I don't like the Thrawn trilogy. I actually do think they are very well written books. Um, they are absolutely good, and they are probably the best stuff to come out of. Well, they're the best post Return of the Jedi stuff out there. On like objectively speaking, uh, I just never sat. I just never really liked the idea of Luke, Leia, and Han going on journeys after Return of the Jedi. You know, I meant Thrawn is psychic in that like there's, yeah, he's well read and stuff, but he makes some like very he makes lapses and leaps in logic that are like far more. He does a lot of inductive reasoning. He does a lot of like, oh, they did this, therefore they must be this, therefore they will do this. Like there's a lot of that going on with a lot of his military strategies. It's just a very he just uses a lot of inductive reasoning instead of deductive, um, to formulate his plans in those books. Uh, but yeah, my main problem with the Thrawn trilogy is more it felt tacked on, like let Luke, Leia, and Han have their happy ending after Return of the Jedi. Don't just keep dragging them out for the same BS over and over again. And again, the new Jedi Order books were way more egregious about this with the Yuuzhan Vong. Uh, so yeah, I would have had like an Imperial remnant probably, but I would have kept them like on the back foot. Ashbury says, so at the end of Rebels, they reveal that Ahsoka was alive after Endor. Do you think we'll get a book where she meets Luke? Uh, if she's gonna appear in a book, we need to get her in a book where she just gets fucking dead. Uh, I. This is bias speaking. I never liked Ahsoka. I always felt she was out of place, or very poorly utilized, as far as like what her role in the dynamic was supposed to be. I never liked the idea of Anakin Skywalker having an apprentice. I never liked the idea of Anakin Skywalker being called a Jedi Master in Clone Wars because he wasn't. That was a major plot point in Revenge of the Sith, that he wasn't a master. Uh, I don't like how Dave Filoni's Clone Wars series just sticks a big middle finger to Jenny Tartakovsky's work. Using Jenny Tartakovsky's work, it actually shows how Anakin Skywalker got knighted and became kind of worthy of that title. Whereas Dave Filoni is like, oh, Jenny Tartakovsky is not canon, and fuck you if you want me to show how he got knighted. Um, and then yeah, I don't think Ahsoka ever really validated herself as Anakin's apprentice. I never liked that dynamic. Uh, I always thought she should have been Obi-Wan's apprentice. I feel like a lot of the problems I have with her and with Clone Wars would be fixed if she was Obi-Wan's apprentice and then had this almost and it would have made the sibling rivalry she has with Anakin Skywalker a lot more believable. Um, because they don't act like master and apprentice; they act like siblings, which is a fun dynamic, is entertaining, but it kind of spits in the face of what she's supposed to be, what that's supposed to mean, and what was ultimately the tipping point for Anakin's descent into Darth Vader, which was, the council. The council isn't supposed to be trusting Anakin with the princesses. That's part of the problem that turned him to the dark side. It and so Ahsoka, it could have been validated had Ahsoka died, either during the Clone Wars or during the Purge. But they don't do either, so she's still alive in Rebels. And not only that, but she goes toe to toe with Vader several times and even backs him into a corner after having fought Darth Maul. And they made her super. Again, I haven't actually watched Rebels. I've only seen bits and pieces of Rebels, so maybe I'm wrong on that. But uh, and it's just the longer Ahsoka stays alive in canon, the more I hate her, because she's a character that should die, and her death should matter. Like, her death should be this major turning point for Anakin and his descent into Vader. Like, I don't think her leaving the Jedi Order was enough for me to really buy that transition with her role, especially now in season 7 that like she's coming back and it's like all hunky dory and good. And so what was the issue? Why even leave the Jedi Order if you were just gonna come back in like a few weeks? Like, and they treated like, oh, it's been so long. Like, the Clone Wars only happened over 3 years. 3 years. And I've done the math. Clone Wars could easily fit within that 3-year period of time. But you can't have a significant time skip in that time. There's a lot of episodes that cause problems with that. Like the one with the clone who abandoned his post and started a family, and his kids are like 10 years old. And it treats as if the Clone Wars had been going on for like 15, 20 years when really they had been going on for like 6 months at that time. Uh, really, Ashbear said, can we at least say Clone Wars handled Anakin's descent into the dark side better than the movies? Yeah. But that was a good thing about it, but there's just a lot of continuity errors that come about because of Clone Wars, and a lot of it does stem from Ahsoka Tano existing. And again, I don't think she's cool enough to stand on her own as the main hero. And I don't. It goes back to the same reason why I don't like the Inquisitors and why I don't like them conceptually, and why I had a hard time like really getting into Cal Kestis and Jedi Fallen Order. I don't like the idea that there's these prodigal Jedis like Ahsoka just running around during the Age of the Empire. Like, why didn't Vader have that shit locked down like he did in the original canon? That's just something that the original expanded universe did so much better. because the dark times were actually genuinely dark, and there was no hope for 20 years. Because the only Jedi were outcasts who had closed themselves off from the Force, and, old men like Yoda and Obi-Wan. And what few lights did pop up, like Shaak Ti, were instantly snuffed out the second that they rose their head. I loved that about Force Unleashed. I loved that about the original Star Wars comics and Darth Vader stuff. And in the new canon, oh, well, fuck all that. Ahsoka Tano's just running around being Force Jesus around people. And you got, new Jedi, Ezra, being trained by Kanan. And they're, like, going toe-to-toe with the fucking Grand Inquisitor. You have Cal, who is this, Super Force prodigy who could, like, who could, like, sense Force echoes and get flashes when he touches objects and slow down time for people, and he's able to, like, go toe-to-toe with, the second sister, one of the most powerful Inquisitors by the end of that game, and just, why? I don't like it. Just stop trying to cram all this stuff into that era. Do others that do older, if you want all these big lightsaber duels, do Old Republic stuff. If you want like a hopeless time period, make it hopeless. Make Cal. That's why I like the end of Jedi Fallen Order. When you do actually encounter Vader, he absolutely kicks your ass. Like that was good. Make it that. Don't make it like what Rebels does when Vader shows up. That's all I really have to say about that. I've been going for over 2 hours now. Do you think Lucasfilm will tell the story of what happened to Ezra and Thrawn? No, I don't. I really don't. Maybe in like a Disney Plus show or whatever, but if they didn't do it in Rebels, they're not gonna ever do it. Except for maybe in comic books. In which case it'll be Marvel and not Lucasfilm. Last call for questions. Ezra and Ty, let's just leave it at that. See, I was okay. I was actually okay with Ezra because he wouldn't have been around for the Purge. He was just a Force-sensitive kid that this rebel group picked up later on. And then Kanan happened to know some Jedi training, so he was able to, like, do that stuff. So, I'm actually going to wrap it up here. I gotta get going. I got a little bit of work to do. Later today, I will hopefully be joining. I know Dashi's planning on doing a New Year's Eve stream where she's actually counting down to midnight. If I'm not actually with her on that, I will certainly be in the chat there. I'll try to have the Mandalorian review up tomorrow, if not Thursday maybe. Jedi Fallen Order stream on Friday. Ruby podcast will go up on Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Coop said, "Answer my damn Beastars question, damn it." Oh, did I not mention that? I haven't actually seen Beastars. I do find that I do find it humorous that this is the same studio that gave us Land of the Lustrous, because Land of the Lustrous manga sucks. It's terrible. Land of the Lustrous anime, beautiful. Beastars manga, very expressive and exaggerated and a lot of fun, kind of cartoony, wacky, like, wacky is not the right word, but it's very expressive, it's very detailed, it's very good. But because of that, the 3D animation actually, like, makes it kind of look stale. Yeah, if you like this, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification if you haven't already. I'm pretty sure everyone here has because you're all regulars. Have Dashie play journal theme to prevent stand users from attacking in 2020. Oh, when I plan on watching it, after sometime after the season, after it wraps up, which I think it did recently. So whenever I have time, really, probably. Whenever I have time to actually sit down and watch it, I'll watch it over the course of like a weekend. Um. So yeah. Remember, gonna show my Patreon one more time. $1 or more, you'll be able to listen to audio from upcoming videos early on, and $10 or more gets you a commission. $30 or more gets you a fan fiction commission. No one's actually done that yet. But yeah. So I'll see you all on the flip side. I'll see you all, I guess, Friday when I do my next stream, or Thursday when I upload the Mandalorian review. Yeah, thank you all.